You see, something is going to happen. Something wonderful.
My God, it's full of stars.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the NY Patriot Show. Thank you very much for tuning in again. Today, a very interesting topic. We're not totally recording it in order, but it will come out in order, the right order that's supposed to come out in. This actually was topic that kind of came across us. Well, Teresa had brought it up, kind of. She had sent me something from Instagram that was mentioning something about patents, and I was like, wow, this really kind of goes with stuff that we've already recorded about. Possibly. You never know.
Probably,
yeah. But I was like, and to try to say all of that in one episode, one would be very long, and two, like, you'd have to worry about censorship, probably no matter where, honestly. But I'm sure some platforms worse than others, and we all know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
But I still thought it was interesting, so I was like, maybe we could just do all these separately. And like I had said before, because this is the third time now trying to record this, the third totally different intro as well. As I said in the prior recording that we're not using, I do think, I will admit, I do believe that these things, I do believe chemtrails exist. I do believe weather modification exists. I do think a lot of that stuff does exist. Now, do I think some people think stuff that isn't real? Is that? Yes. I do think there's exaggeration, just like there is people who don't know that it's real, on both sides. And the reason why I was actually really interested in doing this is because we can actually show that the conspiracy theorists really aren't that crazy. Because yes, there is proof of weather modification because there's patents for it.
Yep.
There is proof for messing with stuff in the skies because there's patents for it. So I just was like, this is a way that we could just show that these things exist, maybe who made them, what chemicals might be used, and that's it. Not saying it's doing that, but weather modification is a real thing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why I've never thought of looking up the patents for it.
Yeah, it's so weird because like you said, I never would have thought to look up the patents for it, and I was shocked at how old some of the patents are.
Very old. I think you have I think because of also where I started. I know you have some in the early 1900s, but I think my first one is 1890 or 1891 or something like that.
It's crazy, right?
And yeah. When I saw that, I was just like, yo, weather patents back then. I mean, that's over 100 years old.
Imagine what the technology
I would
is
really
now.
hope to God they're at least 10 times more advanced than that by now.
At least, I'm sure. Yeah, and it's interesting that the nature of the patents changes over time. I noticed that, and I'll touch on that a little bit later on, but the focus of them seems to change.
Yeah, but these things are definitely old. And there was a thing I did want to mention because some of our fans, some of the people on the Element channel, and we did have Helen actually help us with this as well. She sent us a few patents from the UK.
Thanks, Helen.
Yes, that's our reporter on the streets. I told her we got to get her a little inspector cap, and she's got to start smoking a pipe.
Female Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, that's right. I was trying to get her to crop in stuff in one of her
elementary.
Pictures. I was like, yo, you got to crop a hat in and a pipe in your mouth in the picture.
Oh, it's cute.
And I'll use it on the show. And she's like, you're crazy. But yeah, so we have that, and another listener and fan from the Element did send me something that I actually find interesting. Not totally pertaining to this, but I just find it interesting overall. I mean, could it just have been, coincidence and just a horrible thing that happened? Yeah, I'm sure. Could this have also maybe have been done on purpose? Yeah, I think that's possible. But there was a patent, there was the patent office in the United States in 1836. December 15th, 1836. And gematria, people, that's 45 added together. When the U.S. Patent Office caught fire. Up until 1836, with patents, there was no numbers to them. It was basically just like I even think the first one I'm showing is basically just like someone stating something, and there was 2 witnesses.
Yeah,
There's like no registered number, nothing. So like technically anything prior to this, there's no proof of. So, I don't, could you have, maybe I knew of a patent, and then when it went and burnt down, that's mine now, and I'll just rewrite it,
Yeah.
So like, who knows, I guess maybe the history of patents to begin with could be lost. We may not, know who really made all of them.
Intellectual property theft.
Yeah, I just did want to bring that up, that in 1836 there was a fire, and all of them pretty much prior to that were gone and done, and then after that is when they started, like, actually giving them numbers and making it a little bit more professional. So, I don't know if there was actually weather modification patents back then. That's really old. But, if there was, I guess there's no proof of it anymore as well. So.
We can't know for sure. And it's funny, too, some of the older patents, like the diagrams, like the drawings, almost looks like somebody just, like, drew it on a napkin. And is like, here's my patent.
Yeah.
Here's my idea.
Yeah, some of them I don't even think I even showed the diagrams because it just took up, like, a couple of pages. But
yeah,
they really were as much as
sparse.
someone.
I'm like,
it would literally be as if any of us actually just drew something on a sheet of paper on a desk.
Yeah, I'm like, how does this equate to, like, the actual invention you're talking about? But I'm not the scientist or the inventor, so I don't know.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll get this going. I'll get this party started. The United States Patent Office, I got Louis Gathman of Chicago, Illinois. Method of producing rainfall. Specification forming part of letters patent number. I got to read off this whole thing. But this was, the application was filed on July 16th, 1891, and ended up going into effect, I guess, November 10th. 1891. So this is old. 1891.
That's crazy.
To all whom it may concern, be it known that I, Louis Gathman, a citizen of the United States of America residing at Chicago in the county of Crook and state of Illinois, have invented certain new and useful improvements in methods of producing rainfall, of which the following is a specification. I'll read off a little bit of it. I'm not going to go too much into a lot of these patents. There's certain things that are highlighted that you can see on the screen or that I will go into. Some of the things I'm more looking into is if there's chemicals being used, what they're claiming this will do, why, if it says why, and some of those, the ones coming up, I'm just like, wow, at least you're being honest here. It's like, why don't you just say we made this to fuck shit up?
Right? Yeah.
But, yeah. So this isn't going to be me reading off, 20 pages of a patent. Sorry if that's what you wanted as well, but I'm sure most listeners are happy I'm not either. But,
yeah, it's too much. Yeah. Some of it's very technical, some of it, and science heavy. And it's like, you know what? I don't understand all of this. So,
and like I said, I think really just the thing that I really want to get at for the most part, besides maybe showing why and what's being used, is really that these things actually exist.
Exactly. Just the potential is there.
Yes, just knowing that these exist, and if these are actually like possible, if these patents can actually be worked and used.
Yeah.
That's saying enough, honestly.
Well, if someone's filing it, does it not mean that it exists?
That's the thing, too, that I was looking into with patents. I mean, I don't know. Maybe back then, the ones that I'm showing now, I don't know if you actually had to show, like, oh, look, this actually, I made it happen. Mm-hmm. It might just be through, like, the theoretically and science. Mm-hmm. This should cause that, so this should work. It could. I think some is like that as well.
But I would imagine they wouldn't grant the patent if it didn't work, or pretty sure that it would work.
Yeah, maybe they don't have to go through the time of proving that it doesn't.
I'm not sure how that works.
And that's also another thing too. I did want to mention some of these patents. If you start looking, if you want to start going down the rabbit hole, I really didn't want to turn this into a 3-hour show. But it is very interesting to know, though, that when it starts coming to patents, some of these things, because of it dealing with weather, and it can be a benefit for agriculture if you're using it for a good way, sometimes they will also go under like the Department of Agriculture, and then they can get funding from the Department of Agriculture, which technically, for the government. You will now start getting funding from the government to make these things happen. So you can actually find, depending on what your real intentions is of why you're making this, you'll have the government paying you to do it as well.
Very interesting.
So yes, that's
right?
something I wanted to throw in there that I actually thought was very interesting from the same listener and fan that sent me the thing about the 1836 fire. Also started digging into that and started finding about a lot of stuff with this. And I believe me, I appreciate it totally. And I'm totally like very interested in it, but I was like, this is just too much to add to the show. But I did want to throw that in there.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to start going through every patent and start seeing which one fell under that, but I know some of the ones I'm showing, I'm pretty sure they mentioned does. So,
right.
With that said, let me continue. So, Louis Gathman, my invention relates to a method of producing a rainfall, and it consists in several steps, hereinafter fully described and specifically claimed, which when combined serve to accomplish the above-named result. My method is designed to produce a condensation in the upper regions of the atmospheric air in such quantities that a cloud will be formed from which a rainfall will be precipitated. So going by this guy will somehow create basically a cloud that will then rain. And that's back in 1891. The bottom, it shows, Louis Gathman. Now, back then, I don't know if this was a part of a way of maybe saying, yeah, this is legit. You have witnesses. I don't know how that works either. I don't know, like, when it comes down to, like, getting something notarized. I mean, I guess unless you know someone personally who does it, you kind of don't have your choice. You just go somewhere and, like, you can't pull something over on them. They're going to ask to make sure that's really you. Mm-hmm. For the notary, I don't know if you can pick your own witnesses as well, which would be very convenient. But, who knows? I don't know how the exact witness stuff works, but there's two witnesses there. W.H. Lotz, or L-A-T-Z, and Harry C. Kennedy. We get Kennedy again. Real quick, Louis Gathman, just wanted to mention him real fast, was born in Hanover. His father was a school teacher and instilled in his son a lifelong love of astronomy.
Huh.
He moved to the United States in 1864 and eventually moved to Chicago, where he lived until the end of the 19th century, when he moved to Washington, D.C. So, he came from Prussia at the time. So I did want to mention that, too. He came from Prussia, and we also have, I want to add real quick, Louis Gathman was an engineer and inventor who held numerous patents in many different fields. Initially, Gathman created equipment for screening and sifting wheat and flour and held a number of patents for these devices. In the 1880s, Gathman built 3 astronomical observatories in the Chicago area and was working on a new type of telescope lens. His Chicago home also included a domed observatory tower. Gathman received a patent in the 1890s based on his research in weather modification. Gathman later became interested in ordnance development and in 1901 invented the Gathman gun, an 18-inch gun to be mounted on ships that was designed to send large charges of high explosives at water level. The gun was tested at the government proving ground at Sandy Hook, but was rejected by the U.S. military. In 1916, Gathman invented a new type of battleship armor based on the use of air chambers and shock absorbers. So, I mean, he's done some stuff.
An interesting man.
Yes, and he died in 1917. And here we have, I mentioned before, one of the witnesses was William H. Lutz, and we have, couldn't find really much about him at all, but I was able to find his gravestone. And this matches, the time that, even for the patent to be around. And there, right on his gravestone, you have a gigantic Freemasonic symbol. You have the square and compass with the G in it.
How appropriate.
Yeah, so it's very convenient that a witness was a Freemason, obviously.
I wonder if...
unless they just like that design. Maybe the wife got it for him. Maybe she outlived him and she thought it was cute, put it on there by accident. Or maybe he was a Mason.
I wonder if, like, a lot of inventors would have been Masons. You know?
I was going to try to go down that rabbit hole, especially after I found this. But again, it's really more of like, I really just wanted to show that these things do exist. You know?
Yeah, I know. It could go in a million directions.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I'm already beyond the fact that it exists. It's like, you know, that's like when people like, well, who really formed the OTO? I'm sure every story told to us is fabricated, but it exists.
Yes.
So you can spend 10 years trying to figure out who started it and forget that it exists. It's like, that's like, you'll never know magic because you're too worried to figure out who started the Freemasons or the OTO. So,
I got you.
We got William H. Lotz, April 4th, 1880 to September 19th, 1957. Probably the same guy who witnessed this patent with that G and compass and square on his tombstone. Next one I want to go into, United States Patent Office. Paul Weiss of Paris and Jules Vidier of Ingheim, France, which I thought was weird. They're from another country. Process and apparatus for the production of intense artificial clouds, fogs, or mists. I had to definitely include this one because of the reasoning of the second episode that's going to be coming out.
Yes.
The whole beginning of the episode. Real quick, I'll go into it. This is patented April 27th, 1920. I will add, though, it was in... Oh, wow, same year that... What's-his-face died? December 10th, 1917. The application was filed, so it actually took almost 10 years, too, to get it patented.
That's crazy.
To whom it may concern, be it known that we, Paul Weiss, engineer of 70, I think that might be 78th Avenue, Henry Martin at Paris Department of the Seine in France, and Jules Vidier, or Vidier, however you say that, engineer of 7 Rue Villebois, I'm messing up these names, somewhere in France. Citizens of the French... Why is French people patenting shit here? Citizens of the French Republic have invented certain new and useful improvements in process. Maybe that's what it was, too. This could have been possibly... That's another thing I want to add. Some of these patents are kind of like adding to old ones. Or they will cite old ones as well.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I actually have notes on the same patent from lower... So we had like a list that we went through, because I think it was probably an improvement on the previous patent.
Yes,
or an update.
Even Inspector Helen pointed that out to me with the UK ones. She said that a lot of those were, I think, either kind of like going back to ours or they were like add-ons to theirs.
Yeah, and I noticed too, a lot of them, they have filings in different countries. So I guess it's not surprising that like this happens to be invented by 2 French people, but this is the American filing of the patent. Because some of them I noticed had like Great Britain, Denmark, Canada, US, like they were in all different ones, all different countries. Nice. Yeah, sorry, continue.
All right. Apparatus for the production of intense artificial clouds, fogs, or mists. And do hereby declare the following to be a full, clear, and exact description of the invention, such as will enable others skilled in the art to which it appertains to make and use the same. Basically, it's saying that this is what this is for. The present invention renders it possible to produce very opaque artificial mists by effecting the atomization of anhydrous chlorids, such as titanium chloride or stannic chloride, or analogous bodies in a moist, ammoniacal atmosphere.
That's so funny. I literally wrote that exact thing.
Oh, see, and I made sure that I highlighted that. And then at the bottom, it does show Paul Weiss, Jules Verdier, witnesses Chaz P. Presley, and Alexander Bashhole.
It's an amazing name.
Yeah, maybe it's Bashhole. This sounds just as bad. So, yeah, all right. So it mentions anhydrous chlorides, titanium chloride, stannic chloride, and I mentioned Chaz P. Presley. Anhydrous HCl response. Anhydrous hydrogen chloride is a CI emission chemical, and like chlorine, is a toxic inhalation hazard.
Awesome.
CI's mission related to CI's mission related to a HCl is limited to distribution and use. So this is saying that it is toxic. When you go and look up stannic chloride, it says toxic inhalation, ingestion, or skin contact with material may cause severe injury or death. Now, I just want to add, I do not know the dosages. But I'm just saying that at some dosage, this stuff is toxic. I don't know if the patent, whatever, but just showing you. And something I also found interesting, the process of manufacturing chlorobenzene. The witness for that was J.P. Presley as well.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I just wanted to throw that in there. I thought that was interesting. And chlorobenzene is an aromatic organic compound and chemical formula. Blah, blah, blah. Chlorobenzene once was used in manufacture of pesticides, most notably DDT. Now, if anybody knows anything about DDT, I don't have to say any more about that. If you don't know anything about DDT, look it up.
What year was that patent? That was the 1917 one, right?
Oh, well, that's this patent, 1916, because the chemical was made prior to the patent, I think.
Oh.
Yes. So the patent for that chemical came out in 1916. And Chaz P. Presley was a witness to that, and he was a witness to the other weather modification patent I just showed you that had something that can be toxic. Again, like I said, I don't know if it's being used toxic with that patent, but yeah. You know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Definitely do.
On to the next one. The Rainmaker. For some reason, is that like a... I feel like that's a book. I feel like it's like a legal book or something.
Oh, maybe, yeah, like a Tom Cruise movie or something, or John Grisham novel.
That's yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of a Grisham novel. Yeah, Grisham novel. I read it. It's funny how many people start reading law books after they get locked up in prison.
That's it.
And I was one of them too. But I was like, why are we reading this while we're locked up? Like, do I need to be reminded about the court system anymore?
You're like, damn.
Yeah. I guess when you're in jail, you want to read about other motherfuckers getting locked up.
I guess it's relatable, right?
Yeah, he got it too.
Yeah, I'm not alone.
Yeah, even though it's just a book.
It's funny.
Yeah. The United States Patent Office, James M. Cordray of Los Angeles, California, the Rainmaker. This was, oh wow, see, I must have went out of order. This actually came out prior to the other one. This was patented July 14th, 1914.
Oh, damn.
And the application filed, it was August 6, 1913. Be it known that I, James R. Cordray, citizen of the United States, residing at Los Angeles, in the county of Los Angeles, in state of California, have invented certain new and useful improvements in rainmakers, of which the following is a specification. My invention relates to methods of and apparatus for producing rain, and the object of my invention is to provide a method which may be employed in those sections of the world where rainfalls occur at widely separated periodic intervals, to produce rain during what is ordinarily known as a dry season. So they are saying that in this, in some other ones that I'm going to go into, it will also specify, that, this stuff can, like this is saying, we could use this for places where there's dry crops, when you need rain, we could do this to help keep the crops going. Mm-hmm. Some of them will actually even tell you it may not be used for such a good thing. Well, this one so far is, though. But one thing I did want to include is some of the stuff that's used in this one. In the drawings, which I'm not showing, Figure 1 illustrates a tethered balloon employed in testing the conditions of the atmosphere to determine the exact method or treatment to pursue. Figure 2 illustrates one of a number of balloons employed in raising powder and chloride of potash and exploding the powder and so scattering the potash. Figure 3 illustrates one of a number of balloons employed in raising powder and water, the powder being exploded to scatter the water. Figure 4 illustrates this one blows my mind. One of a number of balloons to be employed in raising a tank containing sulfuric acid and crushed bone.
What?
The bone and acid being intended as a steady means for generating nitrogen.
Oh, wow.
Well, okay then.
Holy, man.
Okay, James M. Cordray, you go with your bad stuff.
I just have this vision of like this mad scientist just like combining like all these beakers. Just gonna be like, boom, yes, like I got something here. See, like, it's like, oh man, how would you even think of that?
This is that moment when I was talking about before, and I don't know what intro it was in. I may not even have mentioned it in this show. Tried so many times, but
take 1 or take 5.
Yeah, right. But this is that point where it's like, is this where the theory comes into play? And is it like the scientist is like thinking in his head, like, all right, bones have something in them that once mixed with what this chemical compound is, right, you should get this. Like, I'm hoping that's what this is, but I'm sure it probably isn't.
I don't know. I hope so too. This has probably
been tested and proven, but maybe this is one of those things where it's just, in theory.
Maybe test it on a small scale and then just theorize on a larger scale, we hope.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Then another one I have. I just, honestly, I think that thing saying that it can produce clouds to rain, I mean, that's proof right there that it can manipulate weather, and I just thought the sulfuric acid in bones was enough. So I'm done.
Totally.
Moving on from that one. United States Patent Office, process for controlling weather. Harvey M. Brandau, Wilton, a signer to WC Inc., a corporation of Delaware. That is another thing, too, and it was kind of, I didn't want to go too crazy down that rabbit hole. WC Inc., if you start looking into what they're into, that company, that could be almost another conspiracy theory in itself. If people are looking to look into that, I highly suggest it. Look into other patents they've done, people and stuff that have been associated with it. Again, that was even something that was brought to my attention from the same person with the 1836. They started looking into some patents and came across that company and found some of the interesting stuff I did. It's just I was not going to drag this out. This invention relates to a process for affecting changes in weather conditions. More specifically, the process for dissipating clouds and fog by clearing the atmosphere of moisture particles that are large enough to be visible and yet not large enough to fall out of suspension in the gases of the atmosphere. Specifically, an object of this intention is to maintain contact weather conditions at airports, air traffic zones, and centers, and on airways by reducing the amount of visible water vapor, blah, blah, blah. Another object of this invention is to control weather which causes hail damage. lightning, and interferences with wave transmissions by the reduction of visible water vapor through the dissipation of clouds. Another object of this invention is the control of weather by dissipating typhoons, hurricanes, and other storm centers by the dissipation of the convective clouds forming the weather. Blah, blah, blah. It goes on to even mention that is to control weather through snow and sleet, and the control of weather causing snow and sleet in heavily populated areas where large quantities are particularly undesirable because of its effect on traffic conditions. So I guess if somebody wants to control traffic, instead of closing down bridges, like, who was that guy, that fat Republican that was running with Trump?
Oh, Chris something.
Yes, yeah, he'll just close down bridges. I guess we can just cause snow and hail and sleet.
Where was this invention for the snow in Buffalo recently?
Oh, yeah, right.
Right?
Another object of the present invention is the process of dissipating weather frontal systems which cause floods due to continuous rains. And another object of the present invention is to provide rain in designated areas by use of my weather control process. It even said to help provide desirable weather for sport events.
Oh, wow.
So back then in 1948, I guess they were already realizing that weather could be a problem for making money in sporting events.
I wonder if Super Bowl was already around.
But I did find that interesting that it even did say that part of this is to control the weather and causing snow and sleet in heavily populated areas where it's particularly undesirable.
Yeah.
So, that's the process for controlling weather. United States Patent Office, 1948, May 7th. I have another one here. United States Patent Office, generation of electrical fields. Some of these I'm going to be a little bit shorter with. I just find it interesting that they're playing with electricity in the skies. Application May 15th, 1956. This invention relates to the conversion of mechanical energy into electrical energy, and more particularly to a regenerative system for charging bodies or clouds. So back in 1959, it was patented in April 7th. By then, it seems to me that they understood shooting electricity up into the clouds is going to make a change, or up into the skies.
Yeah.
So I think that's like, the reason I'm bringing that up is because I think that might be a little bit more high tech for that time than people think.
Yeah.
Yeah, people may not think like they were
right?
actually doing that by then and like knew that would change stuff. But I'm not going to really go into that one too much. The one thing though, Bernard Vonnegut, I wanted to mention, was the one who did this. Maybe some people might think that Vonnegut sounds familiar. Bernard Vonnegut was an American atmospheric scientist credited with discovering the silver iodide, iodide could be used effectively in cloud seeding to produce snow and rain.
Wow.
He was the older brother of American novelist Kurt Vonnegut.
Oh.
So.
Yeah, that name is familiar.
And, of course, he started work in 1945 at the General Electric Research Laboratory in Schenectady, New York. We couldn't leave New York out of this, of course.
Gotta be in there somewhere.
You gotta always have to have some weird thing coming from.
Is that upstate?
Yeah. It's going
everything
up there.
Everything is upstate. Everything weird is upstate New York.
Yeah. Only, the Son of Sam was kind of like on the verge of going upstate. Yeah. And it probably like 15, 20 minutes closer, he would have actually probably considered like in the 5 boroughs. But next one, now I am covering some of the stuff from the UK. There's a UK patent application, and the date of that is date of filing, December 3rd, 2010, date lodged. September 1st, 2012. The applicants is Davidson Technology Limited, and the inventors are Peter Davidson, Hugh Edmund Murray Hunt, and Christopher John Burgoyne. And the title of the invention, Atmospheric Delivery System. Abstract title, a method of transporting solid particles having a refractive index greater than 1.4 into the atmosphere. So basically, this thing pretty much is like a patent to I think drop stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the present invention relates to a method for transporting and dispersing particles into the Earth's stratosphere.
I think it's from ground particles up.
Particularly to achieve a global or local cooling effect. So that's the main thing behind that. Summary of the invention. Thus, the invention relates to a method of transporting solid particles having, again, a refractive index of greater than 1.4 into the Earth's atmosphere. The method comprising transporting the particles via a conduit from a substantially ground-level location to an elevated location and dispersing the particles into the atmosphere, just like you said.
Mm-hmm.
By transporting particles through a conduit, same thing all over again. The lifetime of such a cloud is largely determined by the rate of depletion of particles from the cloud. So, just added that in there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think I had that one also, maybe as an update, because I think mine was from 2009. What did you say yours was? Was it the same?
And it does use, it does mention titanium dioxide.
Yeah, I was going to say that the carrier fluid that they use to transport the particles up into the atmosphere was titanium dioxide, sodium chloride, and silicon.
Yes. The only thing I think I did look those all up too. The only thing that I found worth mentioning, and I don't even think it was anything horrible, sunscreen and UV blocking pigments. In cosmetic and skincare products, titanium dioxide is used as a pigment, sunscreen and as a pigment, sunscreen, and a thickener.
Mm-hmm.
So titanium dioxide is even used in sunscreen. So, then there's another patent, UK patent, that is the data filing was 15/4/2008. So I guess April 15th, 2008. This one was by Sarit LLC, and this is a high-altitude atmospheric alteration system and method. The description here in general relates to the field of high-altitude conduits and high-altitude structures capable of many applications, including affecting changes in the atmosphere. So,
interesting.
Yeah. I did look up that Sarit LLC. That was the company that did this.
And what is that about?
I looked up their patents because it was easier to find the patents that they've done than to find out really what else they do. System and method for nuclear fission reactor materials.
Whoa.
Systems and methods for brokering data products. And if somebody's like, what's brokering data products? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's selling your information to people that harass you with phone calls and emails.
That's great.
Systems and methods for brokering data products.
So they dabble in nuclear and data selling. Great.
Compensation determination and data brokering arrangements. So I guess they decide how much it's worth too. System and methods for monitoring data brokering arrangements. Subdermal material in delivery device. A method may include placing a first device on a first side of a skin portion. You already know where I'm going with that. Subdermal, putting something on your skin and it absorbs it.
Great.
Device system and method for controllably reducing inflammatory mediators in a subject. System and methods for obtaining analytes from a body. And this is done through the dermal layer.
Oh.
And receiving the whatever it's being ejected from the skin, it can do that too. So, being able to read stuff coming out of your skin and being able to put stuff into your skin, they've done. One of the people that was on that last one that I did, Nathan Mervold. Formerly Chief Technology Officer at Microsoft, is co-founder of Intellectual Ventures and the principal author of Modernist Cuisine. So, but basically this guy, I mean, he was at Microsoft. I just found that interesting too. Microsoft is involved.
Very.
The guy who's involved with Microsoft is involved with these patents.
Not surprising.
Lowell Wood is an American astrophysicist who has been involved with the Strategic Defensive Initiative and with geoengineering studies. He has been affiliated with Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory and Hoover Institution and chaired the EMP Commission. There's just another person that I thought was rather interesting with his connections, and he is a prolific inventor and listed on 1,761 U.S. patents as of August 21st, 2018. Wood passed Thomas Edison on June 30th in 2015, becoming the all-time most prolific inventor from the United States based on the issued U.S. utility patents.
Wow.
So in the United States, this guy has the most patents as well.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Political work. He's worked with global think tanks on global warming.
Of course he has.
Yes. Yeah, Lowell Elwood, University of California, physicist, member, and director's technical staff. Lowell Wood, PhD, is an astrophysicist at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. His research contributed to the international effort to achieve controlled thermonuclear fusion through the use of lasers. He's collaborated on development of X-ray lasers. So this guy's, he's best known for his role in design and development and early stage testing of space-based defenses against ballistic missiles attack. His concept, called Brilliant Pebbles, was adopted by the Pentagon as the most technically apt of missile defense proposals.
Wow.
Yeah, you can look that up. He's come up with that. It almost reminded me of like that shit from fucking Iron Man.
Yeah. Well, and all this talk of like nuclear fission is reminding me of the series Dark, which I know our listener Liza, sorry, I don't know how to say her name. She'll appreciate that because her and I talk about that show all the time.
Patents by inventor Christopher John Burgoyne. Atmospheric delivery system, high altitude platform, high altitude platform, high altitude platform, another high altitude platform, atmospheric delivery system. So I was just showing those guys. I thought they were all kind of interesting people too behind that patent.
Very.
I couldn't find much on that company. And that is the end of whatever I had to cover on patents. And now we have whatever Teresa looked into. Because we kind of came up with a bunch of patents and just split them up.
Yes.
Now on to yours.
Well, that's very interesting. Thank you. Actually, it's funny because two of them that you covered, I also had notes on.
So I was worried that may have happened with further ones. When I started noticing them refer back to other ones, I was like, she may end up getting stuck with ones that refer back to mine.
But I think it just speaks to the relevance of them because we probably both picked them out based on the titles, being like, oh, that seems like it would be relevant to the other things that we're going to talk about in the other episodes.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay, so I have notes on a few that kind of stood out to me. So the first one is a patent for a method for dispersing natural atmospheric fogs and clouds. So again, going back to the fogs, the inventor is Roger T. Stone, who I could not find much information on because Roger Stone. Yeah, so everything that comes up is about, the more modern Roger Stone.
If the patent wasn't so old, I'd be like,
Yeah, I don't think they're the same person. So this patent was filed October 13th, 1959. And it was filed by Fincase. I don't know how you say the company name. Industry Tribi Limited. I don't know. in San Jose, Costa Rica. So I do think, though, it's an American patent. So basically what it's about is dissolving alcohols into liquids so that they can maintain their liquid state under pressure in a sealed container. And then they would disperse the alcohol solution with the propellant into the air. So this is unlike the two more common methods of dispersing or cloud seeding. So in this method, it's like the powder and the liquid is in two separate containers, and then it gets shot out of the plane and it combines in the air. Whereas before, they would combine the powder and the liquid on the ground, and then this cuts out like that whole labor process, and then load that into the plane. So they just load the two separate things, the plane flies, and it combines in the atmosphere, basically. So the two other more common methods of cloud seeding was solid carbon dioxide or silver iodide. But the pro of using this method with an alcohol solution is that it could be done at warmer temperatures and lower heights in the atmosphere. Because apparently for the silver iodide method and carbon dioxide method, you have to be much higher up because you need a cold temperature.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So this massive water droplets method includes alcohols like ethyl alcohol, methyl, propyl, isomyl, tertiary butyl alcohols in a dispersed form. So obviously highly chemical shit, right?
And what was that again? 1959, you said? Or
yes, it was filed in 59.
And what was the exact reasoning? What was it called again? I'm sorry.
So the title of the patent is Method for Dispersing Natural Atmospheric Fogs and Clouds.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So basically cloud seeding. Yes.
Yeah, so, it's just like, that's old as shit, 1959, still to me.
Right? Yeah, it is. So, imagine.
And that's like an improvement on something they've been doing already.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So the next one that I had was a patent from October 13th, 1958, and it was approved in 61. The inventor is Louis D. Rutin, and it's a patent for insecticide dusting, a device that would be attached to a plane. So just showing that, how insecticide dusting works. So this invention also would eliminate the labor process of combining the powder and the liquid on the ground. It also combines it in the air, being projected out of a plane at low level flight.
That's funny. I was going to mention that before. I've been like, why didn't they actually combine it the first time too?
Right.
Well, I guess let's just get it going first, and then we'll
apparently,
move on to.
So when I was reading some of the details of the patents, apparently when they combine it on the ground first and then fly with the made solution, it can clog the pipes or ducts or whatever they use to like project it out of the plane. So apparently, pumping them out separately is better.
Gotcha.
Supposedly. Gotcha. Interesting, but yeah, that's just a quick one on that. I just found it interesting with like insecticide use all the way back to like 1961. And then like, does that relate to DDT and like polio outbreak?
That's even another thing, honestly, even going back a while ago, probably within our lifetime, there has been stuff that was considered okay. And now is like, you can't use it.
Totally.
And we forgot how much it was being used in the past and for what.
Yeah. Well, like for now, I think a big concern is glyphosate, which is basically the same chemical as Roundup, like the weed killer. And they spray that shit on everything. So it's like, are these like, influx of allergies, skin conditions?
It's like almost every 30 or 40 years. It's like, oh, this other pesticide is no good now.
Right. Let's try this one.
Oh, yeah, let's make this one. Oh, 40 years later. Oh, that one was no good now, too. Next.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I also watched a little bit of the Frankenskies documentary, which is all about chemtrails. And, the company Monsanto, right? So they have developed like seeds for aluminum resistant crops. So everyone else's crops won't grow as well, but theirs will remain unaffected by all these pollutants and chemicals in the atmosphere. So, and just an application of this technology, right? Another one that I had is a patent from 1964. The inventor's name is Stuart L. Seaton, and it's a means for communicating through a layer of ionized gas. And this stuff I find really interesting because there's a couple patents like this that I found. And okay, it's a little bit complex, so I'm just going to read what I wrote. So this invention relates to the modulation of electromagnetic waves and communicating through a layer of ionized gases. So when space vehicles are traveling at hypersonic speed, which is Mach 10 or higher, and enter or leave the planetary atmosphere, the vehicle becomes surrounded by a layer of plasma that blocks or obstructs electromagnetic wave communication. This invention applies a modulated magnetic field to the layer of plasma to make measuring the conditions inside the layer of gas possible. It's a new way of modulating electromagnetic waves and communicating through ionized gases. So I don't know, I found that interesting just relating to more like modern applications, what we're seeing with maybe like increased electromagnetic frequency in our own life. And do they manipulate weather through that, with like HARP? I don't know. I thought it was interesting.
Well,
and that was developed in
Florida,
Florida, by the way.
electricity is because I wanted to show that, like, I don't know, like the electricity and then like certain metals or chemicals that are in the air, like does all that start like, interacting with each other?
Exactly. I think that's the whole purpose of it, is to put these chemicals in the air so that they are able to interact with an electrical interface almost, right?
Yes, exactly.
So another one that I had is another rainmaker. So you talked about a rainmaker. I think this is a different patent. This is a little bit more modern one. I think yours was earlier. So this is from July 25th, 1966, from inventor Robert K. Jones in Walnut Creek, California. So it's a device that processes and produces rain. The device emulates nature in producing rainfall by reducing atmospheric pressure and temperature below the typical ambient temperature. It induces rain in a volume of air treated and creates a large seating area, which increases the probability of inducing precipitation. So I find that interesting too, because like when you were talking about it, also the rain making patents, that why do they not apply this to, say an area like California when they have like water shortages or like droughts? Why don't they apply this in Libya or like Syria where they have like hunger problems because they can't produce enough crops because it's too dry? Why don't they apply these things in a positive manner?
Good point. Because like, if you really do think about it, if these things exist, why is there so many problems of other places though?
Right.
Even within this country.
Even just within the United States.
If you're saying that these things exist and can fix those problems.
Exactly. Like what is stopping you then from, helping your country out?
Or is maybe some of the horrible weather actually just those then?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. Okay. So another one I have is from January 11th, 1968. So almost to this exact day. I think we're January 12th today.
Yes.
So the two inventors are Mario Di Grossi and Pietro P. Lombardini, two Italian dudes. And the current assignee of the patent is Raytheon Co., which I actually didn't look into, but we should. So this patent was about a means for generating and controlling an ionized cloud in the ionosphere. Again, about transmitting communication signals directed at an ionized cloud. So the cloud would transmit and propagate communication signals within the ionospheric signal, trapping the wavelength duct that encircles the entire Earth. Which I find that like...
That circles the entire Earth.
Yeah. Apparently.
So they're like kind of like admitting in there that there's something that's interesting. Almost.
Yeah, it's like playing with like the ether.
Yeah, I'm like trying to come up with I know I can't think of the name that sometimes they say as like a thing of like this traveling air, like the Gulf Stream. Or they're saying that there's basically something they know of that actually circles the whole planet, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we're not like,
And is
meteorologists,
the thing is,
but...
Is that like, could that just be like a ley line of energy?
It could be. And like the ionosphere, it must have an electrical charge. And so basically, are they just like hacking into the electrical system of the Earth's atmosphere? For whatever applications they want to use it for. It's very interesting, right? So I think, was that all I had for some American ones? Yeah.
It's like the secret in him when they say we can't keep stealing electric from the farmer.
Oh.
That's why she had to do what she had to do, because they had to, that was the reasoning behind everything was happening in that show, is because they had to stop stealing electric from the farmer.
Interesting. You know what? I have actually never seen that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I just have a few more. Mm-hmm. If you want me to keep going.
You're good. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've only been 15 minutes. I went 45. So.
Oh yeah.
You're good. You're good. Go ahead.
I know I was going quick, but it's all good. So what was this one? Oh, this is one you already covered, so I'm not going to talk about it. It was the process and apparatus for the production of intense artificial clouds, fogs, and mists. So, intense fogs, clouds, and mists. That's what. Stay tuned for the next episode because we talk all about that. Oh yeah, this one. This is the most interesting one to me. Okay, but it's super technical, so I'm just going to read the abstract after I describe it. So this is a more modern patent from January 12th, today, 2010.
Oh, wow.
And it was filed in 2007. So it's an RFID environmental manipulation.
Invented RFID, is that like the RFID chips?
Yeah.
Oh.
Right? Weird. Okay. And its inventor was James Neil Rogers from Langley, British Columbia, a Canadian. Which I found interesting. And it does include aluminum oxide, among other things. But I'm just going to read some of the abstract because, honestly, I don't know any other way to explain it other than to just read it to you. So it says, a system and method to reduce signal-to-noise ratio within an RFID-enabled warehouse or distribution center by introducing highly reflective aluminum oxide particulate into the atmospheric environment of the warehouse or distribution center. The aluminum oxide will be comprised of nano-sized particulate manufactured in an aerosol format. This particulate will be introduced into the environment through the auspices of the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning mechanism associated with the environment. The levels of particulate will be monitored through the use of strategically placed sensors in order to maintain regulatory compliance. Furthermore, the signal-to-noise ratio will be enhanced by reducing ambient noise emanating from light fixtures in the environment through the strategic placement of inferential filters. Furthermore, the signal-to-noise ratio from man-made sources will be reduced by using horizontally configured backscatter transmitting antenna within the environment.
That was a lot.
I don't even know exactly what that means. But it doesn't sound good to me with like the RFID situation. Concerning, I would say. Interestingly, also in some of our research, like the list that you and I were working off of for this 100 U.S. weather patents or whatever. Some of the more modern ones that I went through from like the 2000s onwards, if you click on it to find out information about it, it's like a dead link.
Yeah, so
telling me that. I found that odd. I mean, you could probably pop the patent number into like a patent search and find out more. But I didn't have a ton of time to do that. But
actually, I should leave that link. I'm going to leave the link in the bottom if anybody wants to click.
Yeah, you want to search
list of like 100 patents. There's actually a few type of sites that you will actually find like sites listing old weather patents.
Totally. Just the one thing I wanted to say about the more modern patents is that they do get into more nanofibers, nanotech. Let me see if I can read off just some titles of the patents here. One from the year 2000 is for a solar-powered airplane. I don't know how well that would work. Let's see. Yeah, so process and apparatus for the production of nanofibers. Electrodynamic particle size analyzer. That's from 2003. Method for extracting and sequestering carbon dioxide from 2005. Probably climate change related. The RFID environmental manipulation. Geoengineering method of business using carbon counterbalance credits from 2012. So I found that interesting. Considering, we may be moving toward a social credit type of system. And then the environment will be linked to that. Climate change will be linked to that. And from February 2013, charge seed cloud as a method for increasing particle collisions and for scavenging airborne biological agents and other contaminants.
Contaminants?
Pretty sure that's what they're doing now. Right.
Read that name off again.
Okay, so from 2013, charge seed cloud as a method for increasing particle collisions and for scavenging airborne biological agents and other contaminants.
Wonderful.
So scavenging would imply that they're trying to clean the atmosphere, I feel, would be to gather the contaminants. But could you likewise spread the contaminants that you want? Right? I don't know. So those are the American ones. There are, there's one UK one that Helen had kindly sent us that I'll go over quick. So it's a UK patent from November 13th, 2009. The applicant is Rolls-Royce PLC. And I don't know, is that the same company as Rolls-Royce, the car?
I'm almost positive, yeah.
Okay. So the inventor was Christopher Graham Bright, and it's about moisture dispersion. So this claim is to reduce moisture in the air with contrails of an aircraft. Freezes the water to form ice crystals by producing ions, produced using microwaves, UV radiation, X-rays, gamma rays, corpuscular radiation, lasers, or by applying electrical potential to the air. So again, manipulate electricity in the air, playing with ions, this kind of thing.
And now that was a UK one, right?
Yeah, from 2009.
Who was the names? Do you know the name? What was the names on there again?
There's only one name, Christopher Graham Bright, and it was from Rolls-Royce PLC.
I wonder if he's boys with the other guy who plays with lasers.
Maybe.
You never know.
You never know. Yeah, exactly, right? So, I don't know. That's what I got about that. I just wonder always why, if there's the potential to remove carbon dioxide, they say carbon dioxide is such a problem. If there's a potential to remove that or remove contaminants from the atmosphere. All we had to do was just
fly over fucking Wuhan and we all would have been okay then.
Right? Yeah. Could we have prevented the spread of COVID-19?
Oh, just put planes up on the coasts and catch it before it crosses into the border.
Right. But if they know that contaminants are linked to certain illnesses, would they then use that knowledge to cause illnesses also? Yeah. Right. That's my thing. That's my conclusion.
And you're sticking
from this fun little exercise.
Yeah. So I just thought it was just really interesting looking into and seeing what's not conspiratorial and what's actually legit on paper, scientifically said, patented. That they're admitting to actually being able to do when it comes to really, I guess, weather modification. And there is even other things that are on that list. And I think you had mentioned it before. Some patents are just ways of helping planes, I guess, disperse or do certain things that would help with the weather modification.
Totally. Yeah. And even just a couple things that I had learned from the Frankenskies documentary, just to kind of conclude, I guess. They even created the first smokescreen in 1923 from the U.S. Air Service. I'm sure some people have probably seen that clip rolling around on TikTok or Instagram. And it's a plane flying and it's a very opaque, solid smoke screen comes across the ocean, and they can literally just like camouflage like a whole fleet of ships if they wanted to, right? There's also been like Project Sirius, Project Cumulus, Project Skyfire, Project Skywater, Project Storm Fury. Like these are all weather manipulation projects from the government that are not a conspiracy.
Didn't me and you even mention that at one point? I think one of us, it was probably you, who had mentioned, I think there was like, I came across something where they were saying that they can even disguise like ships out in sea and stuff with like clouds.
I think that there's a couple theories on that and a couple almost like urban legend type of theories about that. But apparently it is possible. And there was even like Project Popeye, which was from 1966 to 72, which was all about weather warfare. So manipulating, weather against the enemy. And I'm pretty sure they probably experimented on that a bit in Vietnam War too.
See, this will even almost kind of go back to what I was mentioning in the beginning. You have somebody who has this idea now, regardless if it was for positive, negative, or just the fact of this is doable, came up with something, and then the government is like, oh, this might help with the Department of Agriculture.
Right.
To help in a positive way. So we'll fund you since you're smart enough to come up with this and figured it out. Mm-hmm. So now you can make that thing real. And then now since that exists, we're going to use this on that country and do something else.
Exactly.
Like, is it all really like we're just funding scientists to create shit that we want to use for a different reason somewhere else?
Yeah. Well, I think
it's like a way of privatize. Like, it's like really a version of Musk.
Totally.
A privatized person, a worker for the government now because you're getting funded by them to make this invention.
Yep, absolutely. And even like HARP technology, HAARP, it uses frequency to manipulate the weather. So that's why like the ionization stuff like really struck me as interesting, like how far back those patents go. Because they have like with HARP, like ELF wave transmitters, which is linked to chemtrails. So this ties into like the climate change agenda as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And like the U.S. military was even quoted as saying they wanted to control and own the weather by 2025. So we're only 2 years away from that.
Well, they have patents messing with it since 1891, so they might be well on their way.
Well on their way. Exactly. Yeah, apparently the chemtrails' purpose mostly is to help the patterns and vibrational structures that control the weather. So the substances and toxins that can conduct whatever they want to do up in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, again, like I did mention before, I don't know. And even if I read them, I probably wouldn't have known like what was what. There was definitely stuff again that popped up as toxic. I don't know if the levels being used was toxic, but it was something that came up. So if you're interested in that, check that out yourself.
Yeah, and I'm sure all these things have a cumulative effect over time.
That is another
thing
too.
If they've been spraying, this noticeably, I'm sure they've been spraying us for a long time, subtly. But the last few years, it's pretty undeniable. If you just look up and observe the sky, it's not the same as when we were kids.
Yeah, you're right.
I would say.
Sure.
So I'm sure this has a cumulative effect, and that's why maybe linked to seeing rise of dementia and autism and all sorts of other things because our body is not equipped to handle it in this amount.
Very well said.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much for covering this topic with me.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, like I said, I thought it was very informative. It wasn't as much. I mean, I guess there is conspiracy to it. It wasn't as much occult or magic or all that stuff. But I just thought it's just something very interesting that people should know. We have a lot of conspiracy theorists being deemed nuts, thinking that this stuff is happening, but yet there's actually proof that it can be done. So
yeah,
And
there's hope for anyone out there. Like even my dad, who is a pilot himself, didn't believe 6 months ago that chemtrails were a thing. And now he's like, oh, I see. It's not a contrail. I see the difference now. So if my parents can do it, anyone can realize it,
Exactly. And I really do think just going forward with the other shows coming out, this will, some of these things may tie into that. Or just to make you wonder, does that have anything that they covered with the patents have to do with this? I thought it was all, it all went together in a way.
Totally ties together.
Thank you very much. Do you want to plug your show, let everybody know where they can find you at as well besides this show?
Sure. If they don't find me super annoying and want to hear more of me.
Well, that's me.
Yeah, no,
they're
they
listening
can
for you
please
now.
check out. What's it?
They're listening for you now.
Right? Yeah, they can check out the Spiritual Gangsters. So that's on YouTube and all the major podcast platforms. And it's good chats, I think the people will enjoy it once they hear it. And yeah, please check it out.
Awesome. And her links will be on the bottom. It's also in my link tree as well. You can find the Spiritual Gangsters in there because I'm a co-host of that. You can also find Occult Rejects and Friends, the links for that. The Element server. If you haven't joined the Element server, I don't know why you haven't. I don't know what you're waiting for. Plenty of other shows in there, other podcasts, plenty of other channels just based on things that I don't even talk about that people are interested in. And we do have our Twin Peaks watch party going on right now. By the time this comes out, I'm not sure if it'll still be going, but, we do have one going on. We're starting season 3 soon, so, we've done the whole thing so far. The movie,
nice.
The movie in the first 2 seasons. Yeah, so we got that going on. New Twitter account. I'll just throw that in there. Check that out. My Twitter account's in the bottom. The old one is it's not active by me anymore. So check that out. And yeah, everything is in the bottom. All the links. If you're a first-time listener, I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you found this interesting. Hope maybe we said something that made you go, That's all we're trying to do. Make you think or maybe make you look up other stuff that we might have mentioned and didn't go into. Do your own research. Make this real for you, not make it real because I told you. Do your own work as well. Returning listener, thank you very much. That's what's up. Hit that share button and pass it on. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.